Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gex 2 commentary. Gex 3D commentary. Gex 3D Enter
Gex
the Gecko,
64.
Gex 64. It's got like 3 different titles.
Snap.
It's actually Gex 3D Enter the Gecko in the UK, I think.
Oh man, I am so sick of that fucking theme that just played right there. Because, folks, like I played this game a lot in the late '90s, but after a while, when you play a game for a long time, you start to get, curious about it in a Game Shark sort of way, or you just look up cheat codes and all that. One of the cheat codes is having all the remotes. But what they don't tell you is that when you do that, you unlock all the levels simultaneously.
One after the
So you just hear that theme over and over and over and over again until all the levels are unlocked. It's like, fuck me.
They
I
play
regret this
every
immediately.
level opening, every gate opening, all of it, one after the other at the very
Yeah.
start the moment you load the game. It's ridiculous.
So in terms of structure, you could choose either the spooky level or the tune level, and then you unlock more levels as you go. Is how
Yeah.
it. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, Mario 64.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, in Mario 64, you could only select one on Battlefield first, because no other doors could be
you
open.
should get that nasal congestion looked at.
I know it's
Someone
really
hasn't done a
annoying.
0-star run, Ted.
Okay, well, without doing multi-dimensional physics, okay.
Yeah, so this is the level I usually go first, because, dancing flowers and Looney Tunes and shit, and mallets.
It's actually,
Took that
I
hammer
would
like a
argue, a
bitch.
harder level than the horror
Yeah,
level.
it is. But come on, it's like Green Hill Zone with
I
bricks.
like the glorious PlayStation
Carrots.
1 object explosions where everything just literally breaks apart into their individual polygons.
shatters like a Yu-Gi-Oh monster.
Oh man, look at that PS1 draw distance. It's fantastic.
There's no time to waste.
You can see the sky background before seeing the rest of the level.
Before there was God of War, there was the Fog of War.
Yeah, look at that. You're looking at the clouds in the sky. I was like, oh, I didn't realize the level was already over. Oh, wait, no. Where'd this mountainside come from?
Oh, man.
I'm not giving it too much crap because I know it's just a product of its time, but still, it's just one of those things that's. Did Marge Simpson just slam on our face?
Yes.
These checkerboard areas and the tune levels are the hardhead areas, where they start dropping random heavy objects on your head. So you got every so often you gotta remember to turn your character to the side a little because it always aims for where you're going to be. So in other words, the hardhead area has better aim than your average stormtrooper.
Well, considering that a 5-year-old on meth has a better aim than your average stormtrooper, I'm not really sure if that's a compliment or not.
Too precise for landwalkers. Only Imperial stormtroopers could be so precise. You see scorch marks all over the ground and nowhere near the tanker.
Actually, what my theory about that is that the stormtroopers weren't actually trying to shoot up all the Jawas. Instead, they found a swarm of sand people and they were trying to shoot them instead.
I remember that being my first silver remote. Like, I mean, I know it's the first level, but it's pretty fine. But it was like, oh yeah, I did something good. I'm 10 years
I like
old.
the way that this game handles real-time reflections, by the way. Do you know what it is under the ice there? It's a second Gex model moving in tandem with your own.
Yeah. Well, that's how they handled reflections all the time. in
Banjo
those games.
Kazooie and Tooie do the same thing.
Yeah, and one of the best things about it is that there's a mirror in Banjo-Tooie, and since one of Banjo's moves is doing like a shoulder barge where Kazooie comes out of the back forward, the model on the other side of the mirror will go through the wall, and you can see Kazooie's head come out of the mirror. It's hilarious.
Your multi-dimensional double. Now, how did you run into Gex, Lewis?
Actually, I think it was one of my relatives that had the game, and I really wanted to play it because I had seen the original Gex at a friend's house because I was, I guess it was just a cosmic mistake that I happened to, for a little while in my life, live near someone who actually owned the goddamn 3DO. And I saw the original Gex on that.
All one of two people.
Yeah. Oh, man.
3 was indicative of people who owned it.
The only thing I particularly remember about back when Gex 2 was like new and stuff were the advertisements in all the gaming magazines, basically with him in like various totally not porn star women.
No, there was just the one. There was only one, and it was the one that it was like his sort of Bond girl sidekick in the third game, and that was awkward as all hell. There was this one ad in the magazines that I remember quite clearly because she, whatever her name was, she's topless, and Gex is like got his hands in front of her chest from behind with that same smarmy grin he has on all the promotional artwork, and I was just, even at that age, I was like, what?
What is this? What's going on?
Someone took Sonic's original drop too seriously.
And where do I get more of this?
See, that's how you get good with women. You just gotta be a lizard who will never stop making pop culture references. So I'm already halfway there. I just gotta start making more pop culture references. I mean, become a lizard.
I was about to ask, wait, which one are you? I know I'm constantly making pop culture references, so I'm not the lizard. At least I hope not.
How did Warner not sue?
I don't know if they've got Wabbit trademark. Oh, wait, what the hell? Okay. I guess...
On our way to the furry convention.
I didn't know that this game did that.
This game has a lot of costumes. I would argue Gex 3 does the costumes more frequently because every level is a different theme, and every level has a costume.
How did Warner not sue?
Because it's just generic enough.
Yeah, that's the thing with the level themes in this game. They're all very specifically evocative of certain things, but they're also just generic enough to escape copyright. So like there's an Indiana Jones bonus level with a facsimile of the Indiana Jones theme playing in the background. It's just like got enough. It's got enough wrong notes that.
Do you play as Illinois Smith?
that they get away with it.
Borderline bootleg.
Then there's the space level, which has a hell of a lot of Star Wars going on, but you know the designs are just twisted enough that you know they get away with it. Like
The TIE fighters are literally shaped like bow ties.
the TIE fighters are more like flying saucers with TIE fighter wings grafted onto the side, and they've got little gray men inside glass dome cockpits. That level is annoying, by the way, and you'll see why when we get there.
So what did you get for going in there?
I just went a little further into the level so that I could get enough tokens to get the silver remote.
Oh, okay. And so
Yeah.
going to the end of that does get you a red one, but you're going to do that later. All right.
Yeah, this
Okay.
level is broken up into 3 sections. The first section is for the first remote that you get for getting all 5 of the purple mushrooms destroyed. The second section is just there so that you can destroy a couple of Elmer Fudds, and that triggers the second remote to appear. And at the end of the third section is the remote that you get for just getting to the end of the level. This is a case of a stage where it's not so much a central hub that breaks up into 3 different paths. It's one linear path with a big bulky open section at the very beginning, and from there you just sort of play it like a Crash Bandicoot level. Anyway, who wants to play a bonus stage? Remember that Indiana Jones level I just mentioned? Yeah. Anyway, silver remotes unlock bonus stages. Bonus stages and boss stages get you gold remotes, 1 for every one. And when you get enough gold remotes, you unlock a total of 3 hidden levels way at the top of the first hub world section that have like 1 red remote each.
Yeah. Basically needed for 100% completion.
We're playing as world-renowned fossil digger California Thomas.
There is also another collectible type that nobody this side of the year 2000 is going to give a shit about, and that's the director's clapper boards. There are only 2 of them, I think, and they're in the hidden levels that you unlock with the gold remotes. And your reward for getting the director's clapper board is a short FMV of Gex doing a funny thing. So yeah, they were really pushing FMV at the time, if you couldn't tell.
Usually that's the sort of thing that they put in the end of just after the credits or something, like the weird dance sequence at the end of,
Oh no, at the end of this game, we only get to see Gex putting the moves on Nikki from the Pandemonium series, for some reason.
Yeah, I never got that. I mean,
there is a joke in there somewhere, in the sense that Dana Gould sort of got Nikki's voice actor, that that job for the first game, but they included the second game's version of Nikki, the one that was all sexed up because 90s, and Tomb Raider had just come out, but that's also the version of Nikki that was voiced by a different voice actress. So the joke's kinda what? I don't get
still,
it.
though, that's not a joke that everybody's gonna get. So
Nobody's gonna get it at this point in time. That's a joke nobody's gonna get. Nobody knows who Nikki is.
No.
Pandemonium dropped off the face of the universe.
It really did. Like, it fell harder than. But
I mean,
don't know
it's
what
available in the PSN, and I do recommend people try it because it's a nice, really fun and kinetic 2.5D platformer.
As a consequence of the.
Fell harder than Dana Carvey's career after Mike Myers.
Well, you see, that's just the result of the. We praise the PlayStation 1 N64 era for being really experimental, but unfortunately, experimental being the key word there, not everything's going to work.
Yeah. Pandemonium, I would say, worked. But it wasn't exactly experimental. It was just kind of a 2.5D, 2D platformer.
Well, we're just talking about like intellectual property.
Oh, yeah.
I understand exactly what you mean by just enough wrong notes, for the record.
I don't like Pandemonium 2's character redesigns. They made Nikki really overly sexy, and she was already sexy to begin with. So I don't really understand why they decided to push the envelope there. But they also made the clown really freaky looking. And that was possibly the worst of the two changes, because I just can't stand him anymore. Oh, man.
Is the clown voiced by Tim Curry?
They both had character redesigns. Pandemonium 1 has the most charm in its overall look and its story setup, where they're basically, the two characters are just messing around outside this town with a spell book that they found or something, and they try out a spell that they don't know what it does. It summons a CGI hand puppet monster. I'm not making that up. It's animated to look like a hand puppet, and it munches. It's this giant hand puppet demon. It swallows the town, and the clown Fargus, that's his name, Fargus. He's like, "Wow, that was cool. Terrible, but cool." Do it again.
So apparently this game was built off of the same engine as the first Tomb Raider game.
The first Tomb Raider?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's Crystal Dynamics, so.
Crystal Dynamics used this engine for a lot of stuff, actually. The first Tomb Raider game, also the other Tomb Raider games. Then it was also for Gex, and then the same engine was used for Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. And you can really tell because they have a lot of the same camera problems.
Where's the block pushing level?
I demand this game have a mod where you play as Lara Croft, then. Just her bouncing around all over the place.
It's funny that you mention Lara Croft, because in Lara Croft and the one of the top-down shooter things, you can actually play as Raziel and Kain as a character skin. Also Kain and Lynch, but who cares about them?
I have not heard the names Kain and Lynch in probably like 3 years.
Well, I've heard it recently, but that's because I watch Guru Larry a lot. That was revisiting that piece of gaming history was something that I honestly could have done without, but
Talk about the paid reviews and all that?
the way that went is that it wasn't a paid review. It was someone who gave the game an honest review in spite of the
Having Kain and Lynch advertisements on the website.
no, in spite of the company being pressured to do that, and they were under some pretty shit management at the time, and the management caved like basically the moment that the company put any pressure on them. So the guy got fired over his perfectly honest review, and yeah, it was a shit show, essentially.
That was GameSpot, I think, if I remember
Yeah, it was
correctly.
GameSpot,
But
I'm pretty sure.
it just baffles me that to this day is still a less controversial piece of gaming culture history than the fact that they gave frickin' Twilight Princess an 8.8. It's just like, okay, people, where not corrupt management, but shitty management and companies trying to buy reviews over, oh my gosh, Zelda didn't get a perfect 10.
Actually, the funny thing about that is,
so
okay,
mean.
they have a run of 8.8s with Zelda, but they broke it with Breath of the Wild for a 10. So
Yeah, well, that's not surprising. Breath of the Wild's, the game could have been played of mashed potatoes and it still would have gotten a 10 some places. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it looks like it probably deserves it this time around. But
No, it's fun. Well, okay, we should mention we're playing this. We're playing this
It's
the day the
Switchmas.
game came out.
it's Switchmas.
Yeah, we're playing on
So
Switch.
I don't think any of us have a final
Yeah.
verdict yet.
I'm still playing Horizon Zero Dawn, so.
It's certainly fun. I'm just saying that the Zelda fan base is so rabid that you could literally just label a plate of mashed potatoes the new Zelda game, and some people would demand to get a perfect 10. So.
Oh man.
Those are some good potatoes.
I just find it ironic that Fire Emblem stopped with their whole weapon to grade system the second Zelda started.
You're right.
Oh man. Crom DLC, anyone?
What's the little icon in the bottom right of the screen?
That is the camera mode that you are currently on, and is one of the most annoying things about Gex 3D, is that you have 3 camera modes. You have a fully automatic camera mode. Don't ever use it. It's horrible. You have a semi-automatic camera mode, which turns the camera in a semi-intelligent way, but you mostly have control.
We call that one the AK-47 mode.
Yeah, and then there's full automatic, which you're going to need sometimes because the semi-automatic camera is stupid. But the fully automatic camera comes with the problem of you always have to move the camera under every circumstance, and the camera movement is mapped to the shoulder buttons.
Camera movement mapped to the shoulder
a time
button.
before analog sticks.
Yeah. You
Man.
know, it's just one of those things where we have become so privileged and so
Used to better.
lazy we can't use the shoulder buttons anymore. I mean,
Well,
granted,
no,
like it is,
like- Usually shoulder buttons these days are mapped to actions that you want to be able to do while you're moving the camera. So like
Yeah.
if you're in a first-person shooter, it's your gun trigger and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, because I was recently playing Dragon Quest VIII on the 3DS, and that game uses the shoulder buttons for the camera, and it was like I mean, it's a little bit clunky, but it was manageable. But if you're playing like a 3D platformer where having the L and R buttons do stuff might actually be useful, then having a better camera system would be preferable.
On the subject of games that just came out, there is actually a weird quirk of Horizon Zero Dawn where the melee attacks are on the shoulder buttons for some reason. You get used to it fast enough. It's just a weird design choice. There's a heavy attack and a quick attack like there are in every other action game, but they're on the shoulder buttons instead of the traditional circle
That
button.
sounds about
and
as weird
triangle.
as this one Jet Li game I played on the PS2. I think it was called Rise to Honor, where you move with the left analog stick, but to attack, you tilt the
Ugh.
right analog stick the direction of the enemy.
Oh yeah, I remember.
What
that.
other game did that? What other game?
That wasn't a noise of disgust at what you were describing. I just saw Gex hit the wall while bouncing and recoil and then get all dizzy. I hate when he does that in this game. Ah man, it breaks your flow so badly.
Okay, so you see, you can tell that I was more of a late 90s, early 2000s kid than a mid 90s kid, because I'm getting practically none of these references that Gex is spouting right now.
Oh man. Well, I know Siegfried and Roy was a thing that existed.
Until which one got mauled by the tiger?
Yep, that's definitely a reference.
Oh, here's the thing, I only know about Siegfried and Roy from cartoons making fun of them. Really.
Here's the thing. One of the lines that Gex says, I think in the tune level, is this is what it must be like inside Salvador Dali's head. Salvador Dali's head is a joke that I heard in a completely unrelated context as a drug joke. Like a trippy part in a game that Spoony one was reviewing, he made a crack that was basically the same line. I think completely by accident. But dude, rude. Gotta love it when the boss opens up with the boss killing the rest of the boss for you.
Can I ask, what kid watched Gilligan's Island at this point?
Well, we knew what it was.
Depends
but...
on if your depends on what your mom's letting you watch. If you're gonna stay up late, if Nick at Night's your only option, then you're watching Gilligan's Island. Really.
Well, to be fair, this game is kind of shooting for the slightly older audience, so some of the players might have watched it.
Yeah, I have to imagine that since this was it's kind of weird what the evolution of the edgy platformer is supposed to be. Like in the early '90s, like Sonic was the edgy, cool platformer. Like, man, Mario's so lame. And in the mid '90s, like, oh man, Gex is the edgy, cool platform. Or Sonic's so lame. And then Conker comes out and he like actually drinks and cusses, and then it just kind of stopped. So
Then we have Edgy the Hedgy.
and then we had Shadow the Hedgehog. So yeah.
Ratchet and Clank and the Jack and Daxter series sort of filled that niche for a while too.
Yeah, I think that from what I've seen, they tended to aim, I think, a little bit younger than Gex, where I think that Gex was aimed more towards like kids that were like 14 or so, I think.
It's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B in terms of Jack and Daxter, because Jack and Daxter 1 was fairly lighthearted, just with, a little bit of sex appeal there, a little bit of Gex being a wise ass there. Then Jack 2 happens, and it's fucking Grand Theft Auto, cleavage everywhere, Otzel on woman romance. What?
Yeah,
Women with large boobs everywhere.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm mostly going off of Ratchet and Clank, because even though I haven't played that series, I know more about it than Jack and Daxter, and that's aiming for kids more like 12 years old than I'd say like 14 or 15.
And that right there is where all the extra levels for the gold remotes are, so now you know how to get there. Huzzah.
Is climbing on the walls like that as disorienting as it looks?
No, it's not. Mostly because you see the special wall that's marked for it, and you know you're about to do a wall climbing section, so you're prepared when you do.
Well, I find it disorienting when the camera suddenly shifts when you're about to hit on the adjacent wall.
Well, yeah, but the camera's disorienting when you're on the floor, too.